Hello, genealogists. It's Craig again with Just Genealogy, and today we're going to talk about another leg of the stool. Remember that stool with 5 legs? Well, today's leg is authoring. It's the fourth in my series of becoming a professional. A 2-legged stool is kind of tough. It requires balance. I don't know whether that's the reason why I selected authoring as the second, or whether this picture just made me decide that it was the right picture. I actually have never seen a 2-legged stool until I started researching stools with legs. The issue becomes, can you be an author? Are you going to be a specialist in writing articles, or are you going to be a specialist in writing books? You have to understand the value of reuse. And you have to understand, do you have the right equipment, the right physical equipment and the right software to actually be a good author? Or will things get in the way? I recommend that you listen to my Just Genealogy talk on prepare to write as part of the process associated with this. And I'll see if I can figure out how to let you know where that is and all that kind of stuff. So the question is, can you be an author? I would recommend that you start local and you work your way into it step by step. Or the other solution is just do it. Much like doing Just Genealogy, I've spent months and months and months thinking about doing it and wondering if I should do this or I should do that. Or then finally, one day I just decided, just do it. And that's pretty much what you're going to have to do. Just do it. Now, the traits associated with authoring are, there might not be any revenue, but it will be a learning experience and it will provide you with exposure. And exposure is probably the number one thing that you want to get from authoring. It may generate one-time revenue, or it may generate reoccurring revenue. An article may or may not generate revenue. A book should generate royalties for you if you have someone else publish it, or it should generate income if you self-publish. Some things that you're going to have available to you, you're going to have a copy of Evidence Explained or a copy of evidence, because you can't write without understanding citation in the world of genealogy. You're also going to need a copy of the Genealogical Standards, because you can't write in the genealogical world without understanding the Genealogical Proof Standard and the various concepts associated with the writing that are part of the standards. At some point, we'll begin to talk about standards, but standards themselves are not really the issue for today. The issue for today is you've got to start writing. And it may be that the only writing that you're doing is report writing, and that doesn't help you in the authoring side of things, except to make you more comfortable with your own words, because you're going to have to practice, and recognize always it does not count if you do not write it. So remember when we talked about research, you had to have a niche? Well, remember, the niche is what you should be talking about. The niche is what you should be writing about. Will articles help you to become the go-to person for your niche? Absolutely. So you're going to have to understand those resources that we talked about before as part of research, because these are the kinds of things that you're probably going to write about in a specific location. Remember, I asked you in the past the question about your locality guide. Is there one? Should you create one? Well, I believe that if you haven't written anything, the first thing you should write is a locality guide. First, because it will help you research in your own area. Second, because it will help other people research in your area. 2, it will get your name out there as a person who understands that area, and it might generate revenue for you. I have a new meme, a new mantra that I came across a while back. Don't write so that you can be understood. Write so that you can't be misunderstood. It's really tough to do that, and I have to practice that all the time. Sometimes what I do is I'll let someone read something for me, and then allow then sort of a peer review kind of thing. But sometimes you have to find somebody who doesn't understand the subject at all to read it for you, to see where their misunderstandings or their lack of understanding about the topic will help you to hone in on what you have to talk about so that you will not be misunderstood. The other thing about authoring is you have to understand the value of reuse. If you're authoring and it's only one time, that's a lot of hours. So as part of reuse, you have to understand the concepts of proposing, getting accepted, being competent in that area, being able to possibly in the future create a lecture, being able to write an article, being able to write a book. All those things lead to reuse. The more that you can reuse something, the better off you're going to be. This talk itself is part of reuse in that originally this complete talk was part of a professional management conference talk for the Association of Professional Genealogists. So here I am taking that talk, breaking it down into smaller pieces, adding to it, making it more robust because I have more hours to talk about it than the just single hour that I had to talk about it before. So that's all part of reuse. Figure out how you can, in fact, reuse everything you do one way or another. Everything builds on everything else. So let me give you an example of how I've used reuse. And my example is the Hessian example. So I proposed an FGS lecture. I got accepted. I knew nothing about Hessians other than they were in the Revolutionary War at the time I proposed it. So I became competent in Hessians and Hessian records and how to do research in Hessians in the Revolutionary War. I have lectured 3 times on Hessians, at least. FGS, the initial lecture, the Legacy 24-hour marathon, and the Ohio Genealogical Society. Actually, I think I've lectured on it more than that now, but those were the first 3. So each one of those 3 generated revenue. Then I wrote an article for the NGS magazine in volume 46 in 2020 on Hessians. That did not generate any revenue. But I can refer to that article all the time in regards to Hessians. And right now I'm in the process of writing a book on Hessians. Of course, the part of my problem is that I'm constantly in the process of writing something. I think I have 43 projects going on at any one point in time. And actually, sometimes something actually gets done. But usually it's at the lecture level or at the article level, not at the book level. I probably am doing a book once every 5 years, and I really need to do a better job at that. But I keep getting sidetracked by things like just genealogy videos. The other thing you have to answer while you're authoring is, do you need more equipment? And my experience is, as a writer, that in fact I needed more equipment. And you've seen this picture before, and it's not what my system looks like, but I do have 3 monitors. And in fact, 3 monitors has improved my writing dramatically. Because I'm not moving things that are on top of each other out of the way so I can get to something else. So it's possible for me to have what I'm writing. It's possible for me to have my storyboards or my outline or my handout on a different screen. And it's possible for me to have resources that are the basis for what I'm writing about on another screen. So you may find that you can do it with 1 monitor. I have found that 3 monitors for me is the most efficient. Actually, I have 4 because I like to write with a little bit of sound in the background so that I'm not enough to distract me, but enough to fill in the void of me wondering what's going on because it's so quiet. So I actually have 4 monitors. One is tied to an Xbox, and Netflix or something will be running it on low just to generate noise. Then there's the issue of, do I need more software? Are you a Microsoft Word person? Are you a WordPerfect person? Are you a there are lots of software items out there. I'm just straight Word. I used to have some of the Adobe products, but I just found they were too complex for what I was actually preparing. Am I going to learn those things eventually as I write more and more? I hope so. But I've written 17 books so far, and in those 17 books, I haven't had a need for anything more than Microsoft Word. But that can change over time. The issue is, do you have a problem with authoring? Mine happens to be passive voice. So is there software out there to help me fix my passive voice problem? There is. It's called the Hemingway app, and it makes my writing much better than it ever was before. Notice it identifies the readability. It tells me about what sentences are hard to read, what sentences are very hard to read, and what things could be said simply, and then where are my adverbs at, where's my passive voice at, those kind of things. These are all things that I have to deal with. I don't want my sentences to be too hard to read or too complex. I don't want to use passive voice. Some people think there's something wrong with passive voice. I don't know what those people's problem is, but I recognize that if I want to be recognized as a writer, I have to get rid of my passive voice. So the Hemingway app, which you can just Google and download, will be very helpful to you in examining what you're writing, and it will help you train yourself to do a better job at writing. I also use Grammarly. I noticed this writing streak is 77 weeks. This is an old one. What really irritates me is when Grammarly all of a sudden stops and I don't realize it's stopped and I have to start all over again. I live for the days when my productivity is 99%, my mastery is 99%, and my use of unique words is 99%. So those, and that's happened a few times. Usually I'll put that out on Facebook when that happens because it makes me so happy. The concept that I'm 99% more productive than most Grammarly users is something that makes my day. You have to also ask the question of what sells best, because what you're looking for is long-term revenue. I can't answer for you what sells best, because what sells best is really a function of you and your niche. I think that a locality guide for your area would sell very well, but that's just me. One of the things you want to make sure of is you want to make sure that it hasn't already been done. Now, if it's already been done, that's okay. You can do it again, but you want to make sure that what you're writing is different than what was written before. So if you can add to the field, then it's okay that it's already been done. And there's also the concept if someone buys one book about X, they're likely to buy another book about X also. So I don't really have a problem with having books about or articles about the same thing because everybody brings a different view to it. So for example, we have at Heritage Books 2 books on Light Horse Harry Lee. We just do. 2 different authors, 2 different points of view. They both sell very well. You're going to want to have eventually a book production plan or an article production plan. The article production plan isn't really a big deal, but the book production plan actually is, because the planning phase is probably the most important part of your authoring. You want to decide what your style sheet's going to look like. You want to decide what citation model you're going to use. You want to know what it looks like before you actually create it. What is the end product going to look like? I'm not really speaking so much about content, but the arrangement of the content is what I'm talking about. And what format is it going to exist in? I also recommend that you spend $20. Of course, it's a lot more than that if you aren't already a member of the Association of Professional Genealogists. But I recommend that if you aren't a member of the Association of Professional Genealogists, that you join, since their mission is to help you become a better professional, and that you also join the APG Writers SIG. It's a very robust group of people. It's a great group that meets once a month through Zoom, and I don't think you'll make a mistake with spending that $20. Now, there is the point that although I'm a member of this group, in fact, I'm a co-founder of this group, I very rarely pay the $20 annually for this group because I lecture to this group once a year, and part of that lecturing pays that $20. Again, you want to find ways to reduce your revenue stream. Again, let me just say, if you're going to be a writer and you don't belong to the APG Writers SIG, you might be making a mistake. So this has been that second leg, authoring. And this has been Craig with Just Genealogy, converting people doing genealogy into genealogists day by day. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Hit that like button. Hit that bell so that you'll be notified at noon tomorrow that something else has come out.